fascinating when people do comparisons between food in Australia and food in America because there are some fundamental differences which come down to there are certain things, additives that are banned in Australia. They are recognised as being health concerns and they are banned, and yet in America they are not. So, quite often, what we see is people who look at Australian foods when they're searching for something to taste like home and they're disappointed because it doesn't taste the same. Like, as in, they find something that is the same brand as what they buy in America, but it doesn't taste the same. So, looking at this video, I found it interesting because she kind of swung back and forth in her opinions on Australian foods. So, I wanted to do a reaction to it and just really dig into what it is she is actually saying here in relation to her opinion of Australian food.
Hi, welcome back. I know my fans have missed me. I hope you know I'm kind of kidding. Okay, so this video is for my friends and family in the US, particularly in Ohio and New York, who are wondering about what the food is like in Australia. And I have quite a lot to say about this, almost too much, so I'll try to keep it to a minimum.
Okay, so straight up for me, when I hear someone say, I have quite a lot to say about this, I start to worry that they are going to really have some negative opinions, because that's generally what you expect when someone says, well, I have quite a lot to say. So let's see if that is the way that this goes.
A lot of people have been asking me what my favorite Australian food is or what Australian food is like. The food items itself, I guess, like if you go to a restaurant here, Australian food isn't really that different from American food or maybe like British food. It's just kind of like burgers, sandwiches, meat, potatoes. But the difference, I think, is in what the stuff actually tastes like. I think overall here, my general view is that things are just a lot healthier. They're made a lot healthier, whether you're buying snacks at the grocery store or if you're getting takeout. I just think there's more like healthier options. There's a lot of more like smoothie acai places. Stuff is geared a lot more towards people who work out, like going to gyms and fitness in general is really big here.
Now, I find that to be a really interesting observation because what I take from that is that in actual fact, in America, the people who do tend to look for their healthy options are people who work out. And it's not really the case here in Australia, but that seems to be the interpretation that she has put on it. Many of us just are aware, well, and I guess it is, Australia is very much aware of the issues with food additives and preservatives. And it is so well packaged that, you go somewhere and you see so many labels that say, preservative free or no added preservatives or etc. So I think the difference is that as a country we are very, very much aware of what it is we are eating. And perhaps we are more aware of that than Americans. So I don't think that necessarily what she is thinking is everything here is geared for people who work out. I think it is just that we are far more aware in Australia of the sort of foods that we should be eating and of what's healthy and what's not.
So because a lot of things here taste different, I kind of wanted to compare American brands in Australia and see if it would taste differently because in general, cheese here, like cheese snacks, anything like that just tastes different. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know, it has this like powdery taste, like if you're going to get like cheese crackers or something.
There's a few instances where she does refer to texture of Australian foods, which I found super interesting. Now, when she's talking here about a powdery taste, I don't know if she is specifically referring here to cheese whiz because, that's what she was showing at the time. But I wonder, like, if she's saying, well, cheese crackers, it has a powdery taste. I know a lot of these things do have a lot of the flavouring on the outside, as in not baked in, but, sprinkled on the outside. I wonder if that's what she's referring to, and that's less common in the US. Or otherwise, is it because there is a lower fat content in these cheese snacks that she's trying? It would be interesting to do a comparison between like cheese crackers from America and similar snacks from Australia to see what the fat content is, because I would imagine if it was more fatty that it probably would seem less dry and powdery.
And so, yeah, so I went and bought a box of Kraft mac and cheese. When I tried it, it tasted sweeter. And I was like, this does not taste like mac and cheese to me.
I think this would come down to a few things. Obviously, when you look at the dairy content, then Australian dairy is going to be different from US dairy. For starters, we do have cleaner air, we do have less chemicals in pasture and stuff that cattle are grazing to produce milk. So there's that. But also, like I mentioned before, something like mac and cheese, like in America, I'd imagine that has quite a lot of preservatives and colourings because they seem to love turning their cheese orange in America for some reason. So I would imagine that it would taste quite different to what she is accustomed to.
Okay, another big one that's so different here is chocolate. When I first got here, people said like chocolate here isn't really that great, and obviously there's options that are so good that you can only get here. But in general, it also tastes different, possibly because like the sugar is different. Again, I think there's a different standard as far as health with sweets. Like I think stuff in the US just has a lot more sugar, types of sugar that is not used here. So I tried Kit Kat and Twix, and it like tasted like if you left Halloween candy out, like your bag of Halloween candy for a month untouched and then ate it, like stale chocolate. And then when I was looking it up online, I saw something about how when chocolate is made here, it has to be made to melt at a higher degree. And so that can make it a little different as well.
I guess it comes down to whether you like your chocolate for the sugar content or the cocoa content or cocoa content. Because it's my understanding, like she said, American chocolate does have a lot more sugar and they use a less cocoa or cocoa in their chocolate. The reason ours tastes different is because it is less sugary. And what she was saying about there's a lot of sugars that we don't use here in Australia. It's because these are things that are banned in Australia due to health regulations. Things that have been proven either to be carcinogenic or have been proven to trigger things like asthma. So if you look at the range of preservatives in the 220 range, there's one in particular, I can't remember the number, which is banned in Australia because it is considered carcinogenic, it is considered really bad health wise, and it is considered to be even more of a trigger for things like asthma, and yet it is extremely common in the US. So, once again, I think it comes down to we seem to be far more aware in Australia of the healthy side of eating and far more conscious of the nastiness of additives, preservatives, etc. Now, I do want to point out too that while she has shown twirl She's saying she tasted or she tried Kit Kat and Twix. I think they're both Nestle. I'm not sure about Twix, but Kit Kat is Nestle. So they're not Cadbury's for starters, and they're not straight chocolate. So I would like to hear from someone like who does a comparison between straight chocolate like Hershey's Kisses and Cadbury's Twirl, for example. Um, my experience of tasting American chocolate is that it does taste more like candy than chocolate because it does have so much extra sugar. So I am someone who loves Cadbury's chocolate. I love the melty, the way it melts in your mouth, and just that creamy taste about it, which she's claiming doesn't exist. She's saying it's chalky or something. So I did actually get a little bit offended by her comments here because, hey, we know Australian chocolate's better, says me, pretty much saying the opposite of what she's saying and sounding just like her. But yeah, for me, this was something I really struggled with. I didn't like hearing someone say that they thought American chocolate was better than Australian chocolate because this is, I think, one of those things where as Australians, it is perhaps one of our Achilles' heels. We don't like people to tell us our chocolate isn't good because we love our Cadbury's chocolate.
Even I got like sour candy and again, tasted healthier, tasted like I was eating ingredients like that my body could digest. So I think there's a lot of perks to that.
So she's kind of saying two different things here. On one hand, she's saying that she likes American foods better in terms of chocolate and cheese snacks and that. But then she talks about lollies here and saying that they taste like she's eating something that her body can digest. So she is at least acknowledging that even though she hasn't adapted to the taste of Australian foods and they don't taste the way she would like them to, she's acknowledging that they taste more like something that her body can actually digest. So I guess she's seeing here that they are a little bit healthier.
That leads me to the fast food. So, you know that I've gotten McDonald's a couple times here. I would say it's half and half of what tastes the same and what tastes different. I got Subway the other day, and there's something about Subway. If you guys have ever heard that it's like a depression snack, you'll get Subway like every single day. I don't know, I was just really craving it. And again, tasted different. It tasted so different. I feel like there wasn't a sodium in it.
Okay, here's a tip. If you're ordering Subway and you're American and you're used to having everything full of salt, full of sugar, full of fat, ask for added salt on your Subway. I found it interesting that she referred to it having not as much sodium rather than saying it wasn't as salty as what I'm used to. Because that to me says, there weren't as much preservatives or additives in the food. And let's call a spade a spade. You go to Subway here in Australia and you can expect that you are getting healthy food. You're getting a roll that's been cooked on the premises and it is going to be without all the nasty preservatives and stuff that you would get in American rolls. And you have the fresh ingredients right there in front of you. So it is a fresh thing that you are going to get, and it is going to be without all the extra additives and stuff that as an American she seems to prefer.
Okay, then we went to a circus, and when I go to something like that, I'm planning the whole day in my head, like what I'm gonna buy there, like what snack. Definitely had to get popcorn. And when I got there, I saw there was a Dagwood dog on the menu, and so I had to Google it, and it was just a corn dog. So I got that, and Kat got this donut. It was like a fried donut, and yeah, pretty much just tasted like standard circus food. Really, no other notes there.
Yep, it's still greasy, fatty, salty, whatever country you're in, I guess. Um, it probably tasted more like American foods than a lot of other Australian foods because of the high fat content and the high salt content.
Okay, now I want to talk about the names for things here that are different because some of this stuff just sends me. Like, okay, here they call basically anything that's put between buns is a burger. So in the US, if I'm getting a burger, I'm talking about a hamburger. Like it has a meat patty in it. Here, I said chicken sandwich, and my coworkers were like, "What's that?" And I was like, "What do you mean, what's that?" And they're like, "Oh, you mean a burger?" And I'm like, "No, that's not a burger."
Okay, I've covered this whole burger versus sandwich thing on countless videos, so I'm not going to go into it any further. But I do want to just say putting something in a roll doesn't automatically make it a burger. It still has to have some kind of patty, some sort of solid thing, whether it's like a chicken patty or grilled chicken or something. It's still got to have solid things. You can't just shove salad in the middle of a roll and call that a burger. But let's not go into the debate. Well, I'm not going to go into the debate. Feel free to comment below. But the whole chicken burger versus chicken sandwich thing, I've talked about it before, so I don't need to add my two bob, but go for it if you want to make comments about it below.
So this is like the conversation that I have every day. I think that's the one thing that I can't get over. And that leads me into my next thing, ketchup. They don't say that here, they say tomato sauce. I have no other thoughts on that.
You could get into the debate as to whether ketchup and tomato sauce are the same thing, but I'm just going to comment, go back to earlier in this video when she was looking at mac and cheese and saying that Australian mac and cheese didn't taste like American mac and cheese. So to those people who say, well, ketchup isn't the same as tomato sauce, my take on it is that it is the same as tomato sauce. It's still the same thing. It is a sauce made with tomatoes, except that the American version has different ingredients because that is what the American tastes are. So it's the same thing with a different name.
They also call Sprite lemonade, and they call lemonade lemon squash. Like if you say Sprite, they know what you're saying. And I've never ordered a lemonade where they've given me lemonade. It's always Sprite. But like I would never say lemon squash.
Now, I always thought that lemon squash was more of a brand name, but at the same time, she's got a good point. When you say lemon squash, you're expecting it to be that lemony yellow stuff, whereas lemonade is that clear lemonade like Sprite. I think Americans have got the right idea in terms of lemonade, and it should have that more lemony flavour to it. Because really, at the end of the day, Australian lemonade doesn't really taste overly lemony, does it? It just kind of tastes like sugary water.
Okay, so this one is just gonna, I'm just never gonna get used to it. They say chips instead of fries, which like is not that uncommon, you know, for other places to say that. But I was like, well, what do you call chips then? Because, you know, I'm talking about like potato chips. And then my coworker was like, just chips. So I'm like, how do you differentiate chips? Which I've also seen sometimes people say crisps, but I will just say fries.
I can see why it could be confusing for someone not from Australia when we have chips and we have chips. Although, you know, we will differentiate in terms of hot chips. But other than that, they're chips. And I guess, you know, we don't seem to have too much difficulty figuring out what we're talking about. And I guess it comes down to context. So, you know, you might say, well, I'm going to buy a bag of chips. So we know that this would be what they would refer to as crisps. Or if you're like, well, I might have chicken and chips for dinner. You know you're not going to be having chicken and crisps. So I guess it's about context. So, but at the same time, I can see that it must be so confusing for someone from America.
So obviously there is Australian foods here, like different brands, different types of things you're supposed to try here that we don't have in America. So the first one that people kept telling us to try was ginger beer. We kept asking for ginger ale. And yes, like you can find ginger ale at the grocery store, but people here more so would drink ginger beer. Now, if you order ginger beer in the US, it's going to be like super flavorful and not something I think you would want to just like drink without alcohol. But everyone had said that Bundaberg here is like the brand you have to try. It's Australian made. So finally, yeah, we tried it and it was so good. It was kind of like less sweet than ginger ale in the US, less carbonated. It's more of like a crisp, refreshing drink. So that's something we get all the time now. Oh, it's good. I like it.
Yep, Bundaberg is definitely my first choice when it comes to ginger beer. Schweppes is okay, but it doesn't compare with Bundaberg beer. I have to say, another thing that the Bundaberg company do really well is their sarsaparilla. So if you've not tried Bundaberg sarsaparilla and you like sarsaparilla, definitely worth trying.
The other one is Tim Tams. It's just like a chocolate biscuit type of thing. Kind of just reminds me of a Twix. I don't think it was like my favorite thing ever, but it was good.
You know, next time I go to the supermarket, I'm going to have to buy a Twix bar because this is the second person who's described Tim Tams as being like Twix. And to me, I don't see that. I can see some similarities, but at the same time, not so much. Um, my question to her is, have you tried slamming a Tim Tam? Because that takes them to a whole other level.
Okay, the other is Vegemite. Again, it's good. It just tastes like super salty.
Okay, admittedly, there is a bit of a fine art to spreading your Vegemite on your toast with your butter in a way that you don't have humongous clumps of Vegemite like she does here on this one. I look at this and I think, ew, that would not have been particularly tasty because you would have had mouthfuls here and there that were just an overload of Vegemite. So I would suggest probably more butter, more margarine, and then try and spread your Vegemite a little bit better. Of course, another tip for rookies, if it's too hard to spread it on toast, crumpets are the way to go. Toasted crumpets, slather it with butter, and that'll all just goosh down into it. And then while it's hot, still go with a thin amount of Vegemite, and it's so easy to spread it evenly on crumpets, so much easier than doing so on toast.
But I don't know why I was kind of shocked when I came here. Like I knew Australians ate Vegemite, but I don't think I realized like how much they liked it. I think I thought it was something that they just were told to eat growing up, but they genuinely like the taste.
Classic example of misinformation being shared by one YouTuber and then taken on by others. Because we saw a video quite some time back where Ashley Faye claimed that, well, actually, people don't eat Vegemite in Australia. They don't really eat it all that often. It's just a childhood thing. And it's probably just a nostalgia thing. And hey, my boyfriend doesn't even worry about buying it to have it in the house. So I'm thinking that she's probably seen that particular video from Ashley Faye and believed what she said there about, well, Australians don't even really eat Vegemite that often. Because a lot of us do.
Another one, which I had heard maybe like a month after being here, was Jats, and they're so good. The people who told us about it said that Ritz are usually like the other cracker you would get that would be more like the old person snack. I have to agree, the Jats are way better.
Out of those two, yeah, Jats are better. But I think the best ones are still Clicks biscuits. Let me know your favourite of the three types.
This is just like a random fact I'm throwing in is people here go grocery shopping barefoot. I've seen like people come in from the beach, but I've also seen them wearing completely normal outfits like khaki pants and just barefoot.
Okay, I'm going to take a guess here and say that given that there was another image earlier on in this video of someone walking through the supermarket carrying a surfboard, that she lives in a coastal area. Because, and I've covered this in so many videos, it's not a given that everywhere in Australia you're going to go into the supermarket and see people in the supermarket with bare feet. This is something that mostly happens in coastal towns.
Okay, so something I want to touch on is I think because things like food here is so different, I definitely have gone through stages here of feeling sick. And the first time was, I think, because I was just drinking the tap water, which is safe to drink, but I would feel like super nauseous, like super sluggish. So I ended up just getting a filtered water bottle. And that actually made me feel a lot better for a little while, but then I was feeling super sick again. So I realized I was drinking so much more coffee here than I do at home. We have this nice coffee machine at home. So I was making maybe like 4 espresso shots a day when I'm used to drinking one. So I committed to taking a break from coffee for a week. And this was so hard. I felt like I was addicted to it because I would go to like make a cup after like the third day. And I was like, no, I don't, it's fine. I don't have to do it. And my roommates would be like, what are you doing? Put the coffee cup down. And one day I made it and just like started smelling it because I like needed the coffee.
Okay, so coffee is a major, major trigger for heartburn. So, yeah, having 4 or 5 coffees a day would have been precisely what was making her feel ill.
And then I realized I do feel better without coffee. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, that sounds so annoying.
Okay, she goes on with a big whole rambly thing about her struggle with trying not to drink coffee and she was having dreams about it and yada yada. And it was just a little bit tedious, so I just edited that bit out just for that purpose. So you can always go and watch her original video if you want to hear about her struggles with coffee.
I think that being here during my favorite season and favorite time of the year at home has caused me to feel a little homesick. I just have wanted to taste something that like tastes like home because so many things here taste different. And I was like, I just need something unhealthy. You know, the place that never disappoints? Starbucks. I honestly almost started crying. And it was like a chilly day too. And there's just something about walking around with a Starbucks cup. And then a couple days later, I was like, you know what else I want? I want ice cream. Real ice cream. Like, everyone keeps telling me if there's an ice cream shop that they name, it's a gelato shop. Like, gelato and ice cream is not the same. It's not frozen yogurt. What did I do? I typed Ben and Jerry's in the GPS, and that's where I went. I took a bus, and it was a long ride. And I know that this sounds like I'm an uncultured American, not experiencing the culture around me, but that's not really what this is about. I think when you're living somewhere that's not your home and you can't see your friends and family like in front of you, there's just something about like smelling something or tasting something that brings you back to home that can fill that void for a little bit. And of course, food isn't always about just the food itself or what something tastes like. It's about an experience.
Okay, it's a shame no one actually told her that even if the shops around you only sell gelato or frozen yogurt, you can go into any supermarket and buy regular ice cream. And maybe it doesn't quite taste the same as American ice cream, but you know, it might come close. I totally understand what she's saying about the sometimes you just need food that tastes like home, and it's more about the experience than the food. For me, as a former Tasmanian, you've probably heard a few comments about things that I miss. One of the things that I like to indulge in occasionally is I like to go to Woolies and buy myself a packet of frozen national pies because that's something that I grew up eating. And this is coming from someone who, for probably 90% of the time, is vegetarian. Only simply because my body doesn't like meat a lot. And flavour wise, I quite enjoy a lot of plant based things. So I tend not to miss it. I tend not to go out of my way to buy meat. You know, I will buy butter chicken and stuff like that, but I really don't eat a great deal of meat. But I still have times when I've just got to get a national pie. Watching Tia and Chevio in Tasmania and seeing the honeycomb, the choc honeycomb made with leatherwood honey, just made me desperately wish that I could get hold of a tub of leatherwood honey. And I did consider paying the $14 plus probably another $10 postage just for one of those 100-gram blocks of leatherwood honey, honeycomb, just to have that experience of the leatherwood honey. I did come to my senses though and realise that that's a little bit too indulgent. And of course, curried scallop pies. I've not come across anywhere in Victoria that makes curried scallop pies. There's a few places I've heard of, and I do mean to try and check them out, but it's not like something where you can just go down to the local shop and look in the pie warmer and go, can I get the curried scallop? It's a rarity that you've got to hunt to find. So, although that said, in terms of leatherwood honey and scallop pies, I would say that they are quality Tasmanian foods. I don't know what the story is with national pies, whether that's just all of us from Tasmania are so indoctrinated that we love our national pies, whether or not they're better than other pies, who knows. But I get exactly what she's saying. That said, it makes me sad when someone gets comfort from Starbucks coffee. Now she does change tack at this point in the video and goes into a rather lengthy discussion about the cost of food here in Australia in comparison with food costs in America, talking about different supermarkets, etc. But I thought, well, that's a change of topic from what else is being discussed here, so I made the choice to stop the video there. So I will link her original video below, so if you are curious about her thoughts on the costs in the US versus the costs in Australia, etc., then by all means go and check that out. But I'll stop this video here. So thanks for listening. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, please hit the like button and leave your thoughts below. Do you agree with some of the things she said? What are your thoughts in terms of her opinion of Australian chocolate? That was the thing that for me was the biggest challenge, because I'm so much a chocolate addict that to have someone tell me that Australian chocolate isn't good, I had to stop and try and put it into perspective. So let me know your thoughts on the things that have been said in this video, and stay tuned, there'll be more to come.